U.S. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has described as unacceptable violence at protests in Portland, Oregon. Now, he's challenged President Donald Trump to stop, well, quote, recklessly encouraging it. President Trump, on the other hand, has tweeted up a storm calling for a federal crackdown. And this comes after a man was shot dead during clashes between Black Lives Matter protesters and Trump supporters. Simon Marks joins us with more on this latest situation. So, Simon, President Trump, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, now they're having violent exchanges on the protest, stoking up more disagreement on the ground, or perhaps are they quelling them?
Well, I think that's a very open question, Glenda. I think we're in for a very difficult week for both of the presidential candidates. Let's start with Joe Biden. He's going to be making a speech in a few hours' time in Pittsburgh, in which the Democrat challenger for the presidency is going to ask Americans whether they feel safe in Donald Trump's America. And the use of that phrase, Donald Trump's America, is very deliberate, because this is the Democrats beginning to push back against claims that all the violence in cities like Portland and Chicago and Minneapolis and now Kenosha in Wisconsin, all of that violence is taking place in Democrat-run cities. President Trump says if you want a preview of what's coming to the entire country under a Joe Biden presidency, just take a look at the dystopian violence that is occurring in those Democrat-run cities. Joe Biden is saying, wait a second, this is all happening on Donald Trump's watch. So this is the beginning of an attempt now by Joe Biden to push back against the narrative that the violence is the responsibility of the Democrats. But Democrats are very worried that they are being lured by President Trump into fighting this election on the principal issue of urban violence. And they're certainly not being assisted in that by what took place this weekend in Portland, the killing of a supporter of a Christian right-wing group supportive of President Trump that has been involved for several nights in the violence that's taking place in Portland. President Trump lionizing the individual who died over the weekend in Portland. He's not yet officially been named by the authorities there. And President Trump now saying that he will travel to Kenosha in Wisconsin, scene, of course, of the shooting of Jacob Blake 8 days ago, then the killing of 2 Black Lives Matter protesters by an armed white vigilante on the streets of Kenosha in the middle of last week. The president says he's going there tomorrow because he's hearing from people in the community who say they are longing for leadership on the issue. Now, the governor of Wisconsin, a Democrat, and the mayor of Kenosha, a Democrat, have told the president, don't come. But the White House is insisting that he is going to make that trip. So at least for the next 48 hours, this is the issue that's going to dominate the election campaign, not the things the Democrats would much rather be talking about: COVID-19, the state of the economy, and a raft of other areas about which they've been campaigning.
Yeah, certainly a lot of domestic issues in the US going on at the moment, Simon. But away from that, reports of China putting a brake on technology exports. What's the US view of a possible deal on TikTok now?
Well, look, I mean, I think this is a big spanner in the works for any kind of an arrangement to purchase TikTok. There's a whole raft of suitors out there. As you know, Oracle's been looking at it. Walmart last week announced that they were teaming up with Microsoft in a bid to buy the American and some of the other international operations of TikTok. But the Chinese are basically saying, hang on a second, there's technology at the heart of this that we basically control, and the Chinese government seems very unwilling to let go of. Now, bear in mind also that the Trump administration, conversely, had argued that because President Donald Trump had threatened to had branded TikTok a national security risk and had threatened to ban its operations here in the United States, that in the event a sale goes through, he thinks the US Treasury should be getting a cut of the sales action, because he argues he's essentially allowing this sale to occur. Neither Oracle nor Walmart nor Microsoft have commented on this Chinese declaration. It's going to be interesting to see how the markets react here today, but it definitely raises questions about the sale of TikTok and about other possible tie-ups between US and Chinese companies in these very, very difficult times in the bilateral relationship.
Yes, and thank you for getting us up to speed on it all over there in the US. Simon Mark speaking to us from Washington, D.C.